Welcome back, Mayor, to another episode of PSL on the Mic.
Happy to be here.
We're seeing you a lot lately. I love this.
Me too.
We're here today to give a simple update about some road projects, ongoing road projects that are happening in the city. I know you love talking about roads. Mm-hmm. But first, let's go over the difference between some entities that are doing these projects. We have city projects, we have transportation planning organization projects, and we have FDOT/state projects going on. Some of our residents might not know the difference, so let's explain that to them.
Sure. So our city projects are the projects that we fund through our city resources. Sometimes we do get state grants where we want to do a project and then we apply for some grant matching funds. But those projects are solely controlled by the city that have to get done. And so we manage those, and how we do that is we go out to bid for those projects on our own. They're managed by our project manager in our public works department, and also depending on the type of road project it is, if there needs to be additional oversight from a consultant according to state law, there'll be the contractor, and then that oversight consultant worked in there too to make sure that the project is going according to how it's supposed to be planned.
Okay, I want to jump in for 1 second.
Yep.
When you say is it our city workers doing these projects, or you say you contract them out? So it's a contractor.
We contract them out.
Okay, so
majority of our road projects, or all of our road projects are contracted out for construction.
Okay.
Sometimes we do a design ourselves. In our engineering department does a design ourselves because we have city engineers.
Okay.
Or sometimes, or majority of the times, when it comes to design, we have our design firm that does that, and that works in concert with our city engineers.
Okay. I just wanted to get that out there because
Yes.
that was even confusing to me sometimes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So those are city projects.
Right.
Let's jump to the other ones we talked about.
Right. So when it comes to any projects that are being handled by the state, so Florida Department of Transportation, those projects are either grant funded through, or we get portion of our funds grant funded through a city project, or a lot of times how it works through the state is we put our projects in through our transportation planning organization. And each metropolitan planning area that's designated throughout the state, in order to get transportation funding to help with roads and sidewalks and whatever else is needed as far as anything having to do with transportation, there's a local transportation planning organization. And ours is the St. Lucie County Transportation Planning Organization. You have 4 members of the City Council on that board, 4 members from St. Lucie County Board of County Commissioners. We have 2 representatives from the city of Fort Pierce, and we have a school board member and a transit member on that board. And so what we do there is we oversee how the funds are going to be spent on all the different road projects that we put into our transportation planning organization. And how that works is that the state has one giant pool of money that they dole out to all the different metropolitan planning districts.
Okay.
And then those funds are funneled through the transportation planning organization in order to get those projects done. And so we rank them. Our city, what happens, let me step back. Our cities come up with projects, or the county comes up with a project, and we say, wow, this is going to cost $50 million. We don't have $50 million. So can we put it in through the transportation planning organization as a project to be reviewed in order to get state funding and state dollars to do that? And then once our staffs put that into that process through our transportation planning organization, then it goes through several reviews of committees. And
Committees on that same,
that
on this TPO? Or
yes.
Okay.
So we also have, the TPO also has citizen advisory committees.
Okay.
They have all kinds of acronyms. It'll probably take me a day to go
Alphabet
over
soup.
all of them. Yeah, we have one for, bicycle and pedestrian and all kinds. And then all those projects get ranked in a certain order, and then those projects get recommended back to the TPO board to determine what the ranking is going to be. And it goes into our long-range 2050 plan.
Whoa.
So, yeah, think about that. So that's a very long-term plan. And that's because there are so many projects and so much money is needed, we have to plan out how they're going to go through that state process in the future. And so we put it into the 2050 plan, and they all get ranked out. When it does go into, a project does go in through TPO, the state makes you go through a process of, one, you have to determine the need for the project. So it's called a PD&E process. Then, if that need is determined, and they say, yes, we're okay with looking at funding this in the future, then it goes through the design process. And when the funding dollars for the design is available, whatever year that is, that's when the project will get designed.
Okay. Again, like we spoke about last time, designed on paper.
On paper.
Okay.
Right. And again, that process takes a couple years. Then, if we don't have enough right-of-way for the expansion of that road, then we have to take on right-of-way acquisition. So that involves another process with the state has to go to each and one of those property owners and say, hey, can we take a little sliver of your property here? We'll pay you, we'll get an appraisal, we'll pay you the appraised
amount of
value.
dollars, yeah.
Are you okay with that? So that right-of-way acquisition process also takes 1 to 2 years, depending on what that looks like. And then it's finally slated for construction funding. And so that could be, 2 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out, depending on where it falls in that ranking structure.
So from the beginning to end, it could be
Yeah.
5 to 10
Or longer.
or longer years. Okay.
Perfect example of that is Port St. Lucie Boulevard South.
Which
when
we're
I've-
going to get into.
Right. So, and when I first got on the council, in 2010, that was in the plan to be constructed. And here we are in 2024, and we're in the middle of that right now. So, just to give an example of how long things take. So, we try to fund as much as we can on our end because we know that we can get it done sooner and much more efficiently. But we can't sometimes because some of these projects are just so costly that we need that assistance from the state.
Right,
to
it's
do it-
waiting
to
on
do
that
it.
money from the state to do that.
Right.
So Floresta Drive from the Boulevard to Thornhill recently opened, I believe August 4th. Beautiful roundabout there at Polynesian. And that project is still not finished. I think there's 3 phases to that, which go all the way up to Prima Vista Boulevard.
Yep.
So that's one project. And there's 3 other major projects that are going on right now that we're actually getting a lot of questions about on social media. We are asking our listeners to submit topic ideas. And let's jump into the one that has popped up most, the Tulip Roundabout. Now, that went in a few years ago, but now it's being revamped,
Yes.
reconfigured.
So several years ago, we knew that we had issues with people getting in and out of the side streets onto.
And that's where CVS and Walgreens
Right.
at Gatlin. Okay,
Exactly.
just so people know.
Right, from Darwin. So, I'm sorry, from Tulip.
Tulip, right.
And so what was thought in the beginning was that, okay, we need to get people to get out from the side streets without having to back up. So if we put in a roundabout there, that would help with the traffic flow. Well, sometimes engineering and reality don't meet in the middle. And so unfortunately, this was a situation with the challenges of that intersection where engineering and reality did not meet. So back then when this was proposed, I had some reservations about putting a small roundabout in there for those reasons, but it was determined to be the best course of action at the time. So we went ahead and did it. But it didn't solve the problems, and so we realized that. And so we had many citizen complaints, and honestly, I complained a lot myself because I travel that area. And, when you see firsthand on a day-to-day, what the backups are and what it looks like, it's very troubling. So then.
Well, and another thing, too, is it's it's on the boulevard.
Yeah,
And there's
it's right there.
construction going on
On the
for Port St.
boulevard.
Lucie Boulevard
Right.
South. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we realized that we had to do something different. So the council challenged staff, the public works, our engineers to come up with a different plan that would be workable. We had several public meetings about it to engage our public. And now we finally settled on a plan that is going to help the traffic flow much better. And that will be happening this fall. It'll start this fall.
Do we have, what's the design for it? Do we know yet? Are there a couple examples? Or?
We do. Public Works has the examples, so we
Okay.
can share that with anyone who's interested.
Okay.
But the roundabout will be taken out. If you are going west from Tulip, and you know that there's a little bump out there where the CVS is, where the curb is.
I'm familiar, yeah.
Right. We're going to be taking out part of that curb to align the street better.
Okay.
That's just one example of improvement, but there are going to be improvements made and to better align and to make sure that there is better traffic flow with medians going in order to keep that movement going a little bit better.
Well, I
'Cause
know-
it is a nightmare there.
It is, and I know residents are going to be very happy. They already are, at least what I'm seeing out there on social media. And this is a result of them telling council and city staff, hey, this isn't working for us.
Right.
So we're going ahead and we're fixing it for them, which is,
And one of the things that drives me crazy is, and I know it drives residents crazy too, is that, okay, yeah, we did spend money on that roundabout and to try to fix the problem, and it didn't solve it. And now we're spending money again. So it's kind of like, oh, I wish we could have done it right the first time.
Yeah.
But sometimes these things happen, and you have to just keep evolving and continuously improving and doing what we can to better the situation, especially with all the, driving population that's coming here and the growth and dealing with it. So.
yep. And there's another project literally feet from where this is happening, and that's the long-awaited Port St. Lucie Boulevard South project, which has been going on for a while now.
It has.
So give us a little update about that. I know Heath shared some information with you, our Public Works Director.
Yeah, so the first two segments, which the two segments include from Gatlin to Darwin, and then Darwin to Alcantara.
Okay.
So the portion that is Gatlin to Darwin was a city project, city-funded project, and the second portion from Darwin to Alcantara is a DOT project.
Right. That's where it gets confusing to
Right.
some people.
But they came in pretty much simultaneously in terms of timing, because the portion from Darwin all the way to Becker Road is a TPO FDOT funded project. And that's the one that's taken 10 years to get going. So we've had a little bit of setbacks with it because there's been rain delays. We've had some issues with breakage of water mains that had to get repaired by the contractor.
Yep.
And so, as with any project, road projects, you know that there's going to be some type of delays. So I think originally it was supposed to be done around February timeframe of 2024, and now it's looking like April of 2024 that entire section will be completed.
From to Alcantara.
Yes,
Okay.
down to Alcantara. And so then you're going to see pretty much right away Alcantara to Par start. And what we did a few years ago the state was allowing projects to be cash funded by the cities, and then in the year that they were supposed to be funded for constructions, the cities would get the money back.
Okay.
So we put aside $11 million to help fund the next section in the hopes that we can make sure that all the construction is progressing, one segment right after the other, so there isn't a break, and also try to get that road done faster. Because the other two sections through the TPO really weren't going to get done until like the 2028, 2030 timeframe. And for
Okay.
such a short section of road,
It's a long time.
It's a very long time, but at the same time, you have to remember when the funding is available.
So the city would put out that money, you said about $11 million set aside, and then would get paid back once the TPO funds came through.
Correct.
Okay.
So then, right when we were about to embark on the process of, okay, let's do a reimbursement agreement, the state stopped doing the reimbursement agreements.
Okay.
Right. So then it was like, okay, we're still going to hold the funds in reserve because what if they start allowing it again?
Was there a reason?
I'm not really sure what the reason
Okay.
was. They really didn't share why. However, we were just notified about 2 months ago that, once again, the state is offering, and we've been pushing because we're like, listen, this has got to get done. This
Yeah.
is less than 4 mile stretch of road.
It's a major artery,
We can't
too.
keep having this. It's our main thoroughfare in the city. So the state is now allowing those reimbursement agreements again, and since we have the fund set aside, we're like, yes, let's enter into it right away. And so it's going to take 2 years to get done anyway. And the design is complete for that already because we're kind of ahead of the game because it has been designed all the way down to Becker Road. So we don't have to worry about that. Let's just get it going. Let's just get that construction continuing. Yes, it's going to cause more pain but we want to get it done sooner rather than later. So we're advancing it and the state's advancing it with us. And so we can get it going.
Now, as far as design, what's actually happening?
It's going to be wider.
Wider,
So
for
right
sure.
now it's a 2-lane, and we're full widening to 4 lanes. There's going to be street trees. There's going to be proper medians, signalization where needed and necessary. Obviously, the sidewalks are going to be in to
That's
make sure
great.
for pedestrians. And so it'll be a complete street, just like all the other projects we're doing in the city, where we want to make sure we have those complete street projects going in. So pedestrian friendly, bicycle friendly, and motorist friendly.
That's awesome. Long time coming. I'm so happy to see
Yep.
that it's progressing. And there's one more big project that's happening that we get tons of questions about, and that's the Gatlin I-95 interchange,
Yep.
which I believe is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's an FDOT project.
That is an FDOT
Okay.
project, for sure. They've been talking about that interchange and making improvements to it with widening the turn lanes and extending turn lanes on either side. So you'll see that that's actively happening right now. And so also, in addition to that, the other interchange at St. Lucie West, the bridge
Yeah.
widening, they replaced the entire bridge, and those improvements are continuing. And then what's important about that interchange is once the state is done with the widening of the bridge, the city and the county have come together to make improvements on either side for the intersection improvements on either side of the bridge. So the county has the land going towards PGA.
I was going to ask, why is the county involved?
Yes.
Okay,
And then our boundary is obviously on the Peacock intersection.
right.
And so we'll be making improvements to the Peacock intersection as soon as the bridge widening is done. And then the county is going to do their side as well. So then it's kind of like one project after another, but trying to get it all done comprehensively so that once it's done, and we don't have to worry about, okay, whose side is what, and let's get a portion of it done. It'll all get done concurrently. So,
Teamwork makes the dream work, from
Yeah.
what I hear.
absolutely.
What's the time frame on that one? Is there like a time frame for it to all be finished?
I don't know if I have the time frame here.
We'll get that
but
for
we'll get
our
it.
listeners.
And what's nice about DOT too is I get emails on a weekly basis from DOT about progress of all the
Mm-hmm.
projects that they're working on. So I like to share that sometimes in my newsletter.
That's a
every
great
few
idea.
months to give people a heads up about what's going on.
Yeah, and we'll share. Gosh, I feel like they send those out. I think it's once a week, but they're so chock full of information. We usually get them on the website, and also we'll share them to social media too, because sometimes they'll have lane closures,
Right.
full lane closures from 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. So we always try to get that out to the residents and visitors, especially
Yep.
during peak season, which isn't right now,
Right.
but it's coming up in a few months.
Yep. And the other
So-
intersection that we're working on, especially as it relates to turn lanes and mobility, because there's a lot of backups, is the intersection of Gatlin and Savona. And
Gatlin and
so
Savona. Okay.
we have turn
yes,
lanes that
that
are not
turn.
long enough, and the traffic gets backed up on either side.
Yep.
If you're coming northbound from Savona, Trying to make that right turn onto Gatlin is challenging, and there's a lot of backup, so we're going to be making intersection improvements there.
Oh, that's good to hear. I didn't know that.
On north, south, east, and west, on all sides, we're going to be making sure that there's improvements. And
Awesome.
that is all going to be city-funded money. And so, going back to Floresta, what's great about Floresta, even though the costs have come in so much higher, is that Floresta is a sales tax project,
Yep.
which means it's all funded by sales tax. So as long as we get enough money in, revenue-wise, to cover the expenditures of the costs of Floresta, we're good. We know that we can get it done. And even though we've had to divide it into 3 segments because of those 40 to 60% higher costs, we do have that revenue. So Floresta is a perfect example of really city dollars at work and making sure that, well, the voters have approved us to do these projects by collecting those sales tax dollars. It's actually happening. We've committed to it, and we're going to keep going as long as we have the revenues in order to do it.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot in a short amount of time here. Are we missing anything that's going on?
No,
Any roads?
just want to also mention that, I've mentioned it before, that we have our mobility plan in place. We know there are certain roads, again, like St. Lucie West and Torino and South Bend in the future that are going to need major improvements, and those are all being worked on and planned for. And of course, it always comes down to funding. But we're going to continue to leverage all of our resources through the state, through grants, through city funding to get all of these projects done.
It's just going to make our city a better looking city,
Yep.
easier to travel, hopefully. And I'm just happy to hear that this is all progressing, and especially that Tulip roundabout. I know we get a lot of questions and comments about that area.
Sure.
So we took residents what they wanted to heart, and we're getting it fixed up for them. So I love that.
Yep. So, any ideas or needs or wants, let us know. And we'll always figure out how we're going to work on them and always figure out how we can improve.
Yep, we're here to listen, and I'm going to plug that form over at cityofpsl.com/podcast. We really want to see what you guys want us. We want to read about what you guys want us to talk about here on the show. So head over there, send us your ideas, and we'll pass them along to the mayor and have her in here again.
Yep. Sounds great.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. See you next time.